You make more money than your parents ever did at your age. Maybe not twice as much, but close. You've got a degree they didn't have. You work in a job that sounds more impressive than theirs ever did. And yet somehow, they bought a house in their 20s. They had a kid. They took vacations without checking their bank account first. And you're making $80,000 a year and you still feel like you're one bad month away from everything falling apart. It doesn't make sense. You're doing everything right. You're responsible, you're educated, you work hard, but the security your parents had at half your income, it feels completely out of reach. So what changed? Because something did, and it's not just you. Let's get something straight first. This isn't about you being bad with money. It's not about avocado toast or coffee or any of that nonsense people love to throw around. This is about something much bigger, something structural, something that shifted in the economy over the last 30 years that nobody really explained to you. Your parents didn't have it easier because they were smarter or worked harder. They had it easier because the math was different. The costs were different. The entire foundation of what it meant to live a middle-class life was different. And here's the uncomfortable part. Most people don't realize how much has changed because we're still using the same words to describe totally different realities. When your parents said, "I make a decent living," that meant something specific. It meant they could afford a house, a car, maybe put a little away for the future. It meant stability. When you say, "I make a decent living," it means you can cover rent, maybe save a little, and hope nothing unexpected happens. Same phrase, completely different life. So let's break this down. Why does $80,000 today feel like $40,000 did in 1990? The obvious answer is inflation. And yes, inflation is part of it. But it's not the whole story. Because if you adjust $40,000 in 1990 for inflation, it's worth about $95,000 today. So technically, you're making a little less in real terms, but not that much less. Certainly not enough to explain why your parents owned a home and you're renting a one-bedroom apartment. The real answer is that the things that define middle-class stability have inflated way faster than wages, way faster than general inflation. And these aren't luxuries, these are the basics. Let's start with housing. In 1990, the median home price in the US was around $120,000. Today, it's over $400,000. That's more than triple. But wages? Wages have barely doubled in that same time. So homes went up 3 times while your paycheck went up 2 times. You're already behind before you even start. And it's not just the price of the house, it's everything around it. Property taxes, insurance, maintenance, all of it has climbed faster than your ability to pay for it. But let's say you're not trying to buy a house. Let's say you're renting. Okay, cool. Rent has also exploded. In most cities, rent has gone up 50 to 70% in the last 15 years alone. And it's not because apartments got nicer. It's because demand went up and supply didn't keep pace. So now you're spending 35, 40, maybe even 50% of your income just to have a place to sleep. Your parents were spending 25%. That difference, that's your breathing room. That's your savings. That's your ability to feel secure. Then there's healthcare. In 1990, the average family health insurance premium was around $3,000 a year. Today, it's over $22,000. And that's before deductibles, before co-pays, before anything actually gets covered. So even if you have insurance, you're still one medical emergency away from a financial crisis. Your parents didn't live with the same fear, not because they were healthier, but because the system wasn't designed to bankrupt you for getting sick. College is another one. If your parents went to college, they probably paid a few $1,000s a year, maybe $10,000 total for a degree. You're looking at $50,000, $100,000, sometimes more. And yeah, you can get loans, but now you're starting your adult life $30,000 or $60,000 in the hole. Your parents started at zero. You're starting in the negative. That's a completely different game. And here's the thing that nobody talks about. All of these costs hit you at the same time. It's not like you get to deal with housing first and then worry about healthcare later. No, you're paying rent, paying off loans, paying for insurance, paying for a car because most cities aren't walkable, paying for childcare if you have kids because both parents have to work now just to keep up. Your parents, one income could cover most of that. One income could buy a house, raise kids, and still have a little left over. You're working 2 incomes and it still feels like you're barely holding on. So when people say you make more than your parents did, technically they're right, but functionally, you're working harder to afford less security. Here's where it gets psychological. The problem isn't just that things cost more. The problem is that you're living in a world that still acts like the old math applies. Society still expects you to hit the same milestones your parents did: house by 30, kids by 35, retirement savings building steadily in the background. And when you don't hit those milestones, it feels like failure. It feels personal. But it's not personal, it's structural. You're not failing. The system changed and nobody updated the expectations. And because nobody updated the expectations, you're stuck in this weird place where you feel like you're doing something wrong, even though you're doing everything right. You're saving when you can, you're budgeting, you're trying to be smart with money, but it never feels like enough because the goalposts moved and nobody told you. Your parents didn't have to be financial geniuses to build a stable life. The system supported stability. It rewarded steady work with steady security. You can work just as hard, be just as smart, and still feel like you're constantly behind. Not because you're worse with money, but because the system doesn't support stability the same way anymore. And that creates a kind of anxiety that's hard to shake, because no matter how much you make, it never feels like enough. You hit $50,000 and think, okay, at $60,000 I'll feel secure. You hit $60,000 and think, okay, at $80,000 I'll feel secure. You hit $80,000 and you still don't feel secure. Because security isn't about the number anymore. It's about the ratio between what you make and what life actually costs. And right now, for a lot of people, that ratio is broken. So what do you do with this information? First, stop comparing yourself to your parents' timeline. Stop using their milestones as your measuring stick. They were playing a different game with different rules. You're not behind, you're just playing a harder version. Second, rethink what security actually means for you. Maybe it's not a house. Maybe it's not the traditional path. Maybe security for you looks like flexibility, like having 6 months of expenses saved, like building skills that let you adapt. The old model of security was tied to ownership and permanence. The new model might need to be tied to resilience and options. Third, focus on the things you can control. You can't fix the housing market, you can't fix healthcare costs, but you can control how much margin you build into your life. You can control whether you're spending on things that actually matter to you or just keeping up with what you think you're supposed to do. You can control whether you're optimizing for appearance or optimizing for peace of mind. And fourth, be honest about the trade-offs. Every financial decision is a trade-off. If you want to live in an expensive city because that's where the jobs are, okay, but that means housing eats a bigger chunk of your income. If you want to avoid debt, that might mean waiting longer to buy a house. If you want flexibility, that might mean earning less in the short term. There's no perfect path. There's just the path that aligns with what you actually value. The goal isn't to recreate your parents' life. The goal is to build a life that works for the reality you're actually living in. Look, I'm not here to tell you everything's fine. It's not. The math is harder, the pressure is real, and it's okay to feel frustrated by that. It's okay to feel like you're working too hard for too little security. But here's what I want you to remember. You're not broken. The system is just different now. And once you stop measuring yourself against a version of success that was built for a different economy, you can start making decisions that actually work for the world you're living in. You don't need to make twice as much as your parents did to feel secure. You just need to build a life where the money you do make actually supports the things that matter to you. And that starts with letting go of the idea that there's one right way to do this. Your parents had a script. You don't, and that's harder, but it also means you get to write your own. So take a breath. You're doing better than you think, and you're figuring it out in a world that's a lot more complicated than the one they had to navigate. That counts for something.